welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This is the final part of my charcoal teddy bear series, and in this video I'm going to finish the details on the bear and add foreground grass and a little bit of some flowers in the grass. So check out part 1 of this series if you want to see the list of traditional materials that I use for charcoal. We're going to be using the Android app Infinite Painter, and I'm going to go ahead and add some final details to the bear right here, and I'm using my eraser for a little bit of highlight on the bear's nose, and then I want to go ahead and add some more detail to his hat. And so I'm kind of just working on the shape of his hat a little bit, just rounding the brim out a little bit, and I'm using my eraser. And again, the main pencils that I'm going to be using are going to be the Blackwell, the Kurt, and the Julian pencils, and I'll be using those for drawing and erasing and smudging. So here I'm trying to do the texture of the hat, and I'm making little X-shaped crisscross shapes across the top of the brim, and that just gives it kind of the indication of the woven part of the hat here. And you just use that with your charcoal pencil or the Blackwell pencil in Infinite Painter. And I want to go ahead and add a little bit of highlight to the brim here, so I'm going to use my white charcoal pencil and just add a little bit along the edge and kind of make it look a little bit uneven because we're trying to suggest that he's wearing a straw hat here. And then I want to go ahead and add a little bit more detail to the hat and show the coils, I guess, of the hat and sort of darken them a little bit, and that just kind of gives it a little bit more of a textured look there, and make a little bit of a shadow between his head and the hat. And I'm using my black charcoal pencil for this, and you would probably use your hardest charcoal pencil. There are several different kinds of charcoal pencils. You have really soft leads, and then medium leads and hard leads, and probably would be using the hard lead just for the final details. And then here I'm just kind of adjusting the brim of the hat, and then I want to add some indistinct shapes behind the teddy bear. And I've already got them sort of on there, but you can use your eraser and just kind of erase out like foliage looking shapes here. We just kind of want to make indications of some trees in the distance, but we don't want them to look real clear or anything. And you can go ahead and erase out and then kind of smudge the edges and just soften them, and you can use your blending stomp for that if you're following along traditionally, and then just use your blending brush in Infinite Painter and set it on Julian or something so you can get the grainy looking charcoal texture when you erase. And here I just want to add a little bit more indistinct shapes in the grass, and you would use sort of an up and down shape for the background grass and leave pockets of dark and light in the back so that it looks like it's sunlight hitting on the grass there. And then you just kind of want to smudge them in. You can use your rag or blending stomp if you're following along traditionally, and just use your Julian pencil set on blending there, and just kind of smudge them in, make them soft, but keep the indication of grass blades. And then here I kind of want to add some individual grass blades in the foreground. And so you can start out with your Blackwell pencil or charcoal pencil if you're following along traditionally, and just draw individual strands here. And you want to draw them up over his feet and just around him there so that it makes him look like he's sitting down in the grass. And that will add a lot of depth to your picture. And then you go ahead and take your white charcoal pencil and add the highlights to the grass right here, and that will make it show up really well in front of the teddy bear and really make him set down into the grass. And then you kind of just smudge them a little bit and just keep adding some more black individual strands with your charcoal pencil, and then smudge the ends of your grass right there. And that's what I'm going to do with the Julienne brush, is just go ahead and smudge the ends of my white charcoal pencil, and just kind of, that will give it a more grass-like texture, and it will thicken the grass, and it will make the teddy bear even more set down into the grass there. And so that's what I'm doing here. I'm just smudging, and you can use your blending stomp for that, or use a rag, or even your finger if you don't mind getting charcoal on your hand. And then you can go back in and take your pencil again, your charcoal, your white, and your black, and draw in individual grass strands again. And just go ahead and put them around his feet, and in the front, and just wherever you think that it will look good. But you mostly want that in the foreground. You don't really want that in the back. You want the back grass to look more indistinct. And then here I'm using my white charcoal pencil and adding in the highlights of the grass in the front. And that really does sort of pull out the highlights and add a three-dimensional look to your picture. And then I also want to add, like, there's little bitty daisies or black-eyed Susans or some kind of little flower there in front of him. So I'm making little indistinct petal shapes in front of him with the white charcoal pencil. And you don't have to put too many, but just put a few in there and put them in front of his feet and everything, so that makes it look three-dimensional. And then add a few dots, really small dots, in the background, so that it looks like the flowers are continued all the way into the grass behind him. And just go ahead and make them all the way into the background, all the way to the end of the grass there. And then here I'm just kind of adding some black dots in the more distinct foreground flowers, just to make it look like that's the center of the flower there. And you can use your charcoal pencil for that, or your Blackwell pencil if you're following along with Infinite Painter. And then I'm just kind of smudging the background a little bit better, and sort of blending the grass in behind him just a little bit more, just trying to get a little bit of a more indistinct look. And I thought that the background was a little bit too high, so I brought it down. I darkened it a little bit with my charcoal. And you can even do that with your charcoal rag if you're following along traditionally. Just kind of darken it a little bit. And then I went ahead and I signed it, but I'm usually not finished when I sign it, so I'm taking a good look at it. And this is kind of like stepping back from your picture when you're working traditionally. And if you're working in digital, you shrink it down and see what it looks like from a distance. And I'm adding a little bit more highlights to the bear, and these will be the final highlights. And I'm mostly going to use the white charcoal pencil for this. So I'm adding some highlights on the edge of his arms and on his feet, a little bit on the flower, on his nose a little bit. And I'm just picking places that I think need a little bit more highlight. And I'm working on his head a little bit. And remember to keep the edges fuzzy looking, because we don't want a real hard edge there. We want it to look fuzzy and furry. So here I'm kind of blending it a little bit into the top, just working on the shape of his head just a little bit more, trying to get a little bit of a fur texture right there. And then I'm adding a little bit of dark back, because I just want to kind of adjust the shape of his head there. And I'm working on the seam of the teddy bear there on the top. Just kind of adjusting it a little bit, and that's what you do for the final details, is you just kind of look and see what else you need to add. Working on the hat brim a little bit, making it a little bit rounder, And you can keep working on a charcoal forever because the medium is just so versatile. You can keep on adding things to it and subtracting it, but you finally need to call it finished and just kind of stop playing around with it. And so once you get all the little details that you think need to be done for the final touches, like I'm adding a little bit to the hat, just a few final touches before I call it good. And I'm just working a little bit on the background and just a few minor adjustments, but you finally need to quit playing around with it and just kind of call it good. And I'm just kind of gonna save it now and just say it's good instead of working on it forever. So this is the end of my teddy bear and charcoal series, and everybody stay tuned for a brand new series that'll be coming up soon. If you want to know what that is, hit the subscribe button. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions or any suggestions about what you would like to see me paint next, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.